A few hours ago, the world's second largest car maker, General Motors, filed for bankruptcy. I have with me Kapil Arora, a partner at the automotive practice at Ernst & Young, to discuss the changes taking place and what this means for India. Kapil, welcome to the show.
Good to be here, Summer.
Right, so General Motors has just filed for bankruptcy a couple of hours ago, and I wanted to know what this means for GM's operations in India. I understand that they won't really be affected. If you could just elaborate on that and throw some light on that, please.
Well, firstly, I think this is clearly an unprecedented event. To see the likes of General Motors actually go for Chapter 11. It represents a time that many people thought would never have come. Having said that, as far as the Indian operations are concerned, the Indian operations have been operationally profitable for the last 5 odd years. GM sells about 75 to 80,000 units a year, largely under the Chevrolet brand name. And there is already an existing facility with another one in the works. So GM's investments in India are already committed, and that's likely to continue because India is certainly a growing market. Having said that, I certainly think there will be a challenge in terms of consumer behavior and how this filing is perceived in the minds of potential car buyers and how that might alter their behavior. Being associated with a company where sales or service or other issues may kind of create a question mark in the minds of buyers. So there is an event in the minds of customers, but from a company standpoint, I think they're going to commit to business as usual as much as possible.
Right. We also have the issue of Chrysler, the smallest of the big three, being sold to Fiat.
Right.
And Fiat has a presence in India. They have a tie-up with Tata Motors. And so from an Indian consumer standpoint, could we see Chrysler models coming into the country? Or do you think that, the new buyers, Fiat, are just going to wait and watch, consolidate, and it's going to be business as usual for Fiat India? What happens to Fiat's operations in India?
Well, I think it's early days yet. I think what we're seeing clearly is, the global automotive landscape is changing. Firstly, with Chrysler and the tie-up with Fiat, and now with General Motors. As far as India is concerned, like you mentioned, Fiat's already they've got a tie-up here with Tata Motors. So I think in the short term, I don't think there are going to be any immediate plans to bring in any of the Chrysler vehicle platforms into India. Tata has already got an alliance going where they might bring in limited models of Fiat. But it's early in the day yet. But in the future, I certainly think you will see some cross-pollination of platforms being shared, whether it's Fiat platforms, vehicles out in the US, or indeed Chrysler vehicles in India, but nothing in the immediate short term.
Right. And what does this really mean for the auto component industry? It accounts for about $3.8 billion in exports.
Right.
Most of them go to the US, I imagine. And what does this mean for auto component makers? Does this mean that those exporting to GM America would not be paid back for the exports they've already made, or for future exports they may have to make? What does this mean for the auto component exporters?
Well, that's a good question. I think clearly, the events out of North America are creating global disruption in the automotive supply chain. And as you know, the automotive industry is truly global, with most of the global players sourcing components from low-cost countries, whether it's India or China or Thailand or Russia, as it were. So, the move by GM will certainly impact the component companies that have got exposure to the U.S. automakers. It really remains to be seen how quickly can they emerge out of Chapter 11, what that will do as far as Indian component companies are concerned. But in the short term, I would imagine that it will create disruption issues. Some level of capacity will have to be taken out, and it will impact the ability of a lot of component companies to remain in business. So the quicker this can happen, and the more efficiently it's managed, the better it is for Indian auto component companies. Over the long term, I think the pain will continue if we don't manage this in the right manner.
Since we have you, I'll just throw in a question on car sales numbers in May.
Right.
They're just out today, and the Indian car market is doing pretty well after 3 bad months in October, November, December. What does the future hold for this market?
Yeah, well, I think it's too early to call it an upturn. I think we've seen volatility over the last 6 or 7 months, and you're right, the last 2 or 3 months have been better than the preceding quarter. I think part of it really has got to do with the fact that the government stimulus package is starting to kick in. The second thing really is you talk about affordability and making available finance to people. And I think most importantly, consumer behavior and consumer sentiment. If people see an upturn there, you will see people go out there and purchase more vehicles. So on balance, I'd like to think that it's going to be a flat year or moderate. You'll see a period of moderate growth. I don't think you're going to see runaway growth anytime in the near future. But I think we'll take that compared to events in the U.S. any day. So growth is still growth, and I think we've got better days ahead.
Right. Kapil, thanks a lot for joining us.
Pleasure being here.
Right. So there you have it. Kapil Arora from Ernst & Young giving us his perspective. For more news and updates, log on to livemint.com.